Hi and welcome to Fridays with Fenning. I've been married to Sarah for 19 years this month, and I have to say, I hate it when we don't get on because something always happens that makes me feel insecure. You see, neither Sarah or I are shouters or throwers when we're cross with each other. No, we don't have long arguments. We both go quiet and give each other the silent treatment. We would be known as hedgehogs, not rhinos. In other words, we retreat rather than go for the attack. And when we do have to speak, we're very polite to each other, which is just weird. We avoid eye contact, and worst of all, we stop physical contact. Now, I don't just mean sex. I mean we don't hold hands, we don't kiss, kind of affectionately touch as we pass each other. And that's a killer for me. Why? Well, because for me to really know that Sarah loves me, to feel loved by her, I need physical contact. I feel most loved when Sarah expresses her love through physical touch. And physical touch is the fifth love language that Gary Chapman highlights in his books and his seminars about the 5 love languages. We've looked at them over the last few weeks. Words of affirmation, quality time, acts of service, thoughtful gifts, and then this one, physical touch. My 2 top love languages are words of affirmation and physical touch. So I like to express and receive love in these ways. And I'd love to know what your top love languages are. Look, if you're willing, just put them into the chat with you, as I'd really like to find out. It's been known for years, hasn't it, that physical touch is a way of communicating emotional love. Babies who are held, hugged and kissed develop a healthier emotional life than those who are left for long periods of time without any physical contact. When people face bereavement in losing a loved one, what's often missed the most is the physical touch. Losing that contact of hand holding, of hugs. It can just be so isolating and add to that sense of grief. Why? Well, it's because there's power in a loving touch, in a warm embrace, in an affectionate caress. And I'm really conscious and cautious in what I'm saying with this love language because we are all aware of the damage caused by inappropriate touch. It kind of feels right to affirm a work colleague or to give a gift to a neighbour or to do acts of service for a friend or even give quality time to our kids. But we're nervous about this 5th love language being expressed. How do you appropriately show love through physical touch to a work colleague or a neighbour? For me, this is one of my primary love languages, and I have to be so careful as a church leader and a boss and not to be misunderstood or inappropriate in expressing care through physical touch. Because I love to hug, I love to shake hands, I love to place my hand on the arm or the shoulder just to show that I care. It's part of who I am, and almost instinctively, in a time of crisis for someone, I want to hug them because it's a powerful communicator of love. But it has to be done with boundaries and with an awareness of how the other person reacts. There will be many people who would feel very uncomfortable with me giving them a hug because either it isn't their love language, they hate their space being invaded, or they've been hurt in the past. So I often have to hold back from doing what I would naturally do in expressing love and care to others in this way, through this love language. And touch is a powerful communicator of love. And it's often true in bereavement and loss. When words are inadequate, a hug or an arm around the shoulder just speaks volume. I remember moving away from the graveside after Sarah died and seeing my friend Duncan Banks, and he gave me this great big hug. And I didn't need words at that point. What I needed was comfort, and that hug brought comfort for me, which is why I guess I still remember it all these years later. And that's true in other crises in life too, such as marriage breakups and the loss of a job. Words often fall short, whereas physical touch is reassuring and life-giving. It's also true in times of celebration too. At the height of the COVID crisis, when football was still allowed to be played, footballers had to learn a new way to celebrate because to rush up and hug each other, which they'd always done, just wasn't appropriate. So they had to work out these different routines, which was just really funny. But quite naturally, When we celebrate, we embrace because it's a way of expressing love and joy toward the person. You know, there are always lots of hugs at weddings, and rightly so. So if you're married or with someone whose primary love language is physical touch, and it's not yours, you need to make a conscious effort to express your love in this way. Now, it might rarely cross your mind to do so because you're busy showing love through acts of service or investing quality time or even telling them that you love them. But if you don't include physical touch, they will question whether you really love them, and they will notice every time you're not physically affectionate. And I say that because that's me. And one of the big discoveries of lockdown that Sarah and I made was moving our small sofa to replace the single armchair in front of the TV. And for the first time in 18 years, we could cuddle up and watch TV together. 18 years, how thick am I? So, understanding these love languages, I think, is so important because it answers some of the questions and frustrations that we have in our relationships. And I recognise that lots of my examples have been based around marriage, but these love languages apply to everyone, whether single or in a relationship. Why? Well, it's because love includes parents and children, siblings, friendships, even work colleagues. And it's not just about knowing our own love language, discovering that, and then having our emotional tanks being filled by others. It's also knowing other people's love languages so that we can adjust and express love in ways that may not come naturally to us, but is life-giving to the other person. And that's called sacrificial love, giving up my own preferences in order to meet the needs of the other person. So if you're in a relationship, why not do the love languages test online and share your results with each other and then just talk about it, find out how each other best receives and gives love. And if you're single and you're wondering how this might apply to you, well, Gary Chapman has written a book for you too. It's called The 5 Love Languages Singles Edition. There's also online questionnaires to complete too. So if there's one thing that I want you to remember from these last 6 Fridays with Fenning, it's this. Expressing love to someone in their primary love language enhances all relationships. It really does. Hey, you have a great weekend and thanks again for watching. Take care.